We are going to start sitting comfortably. It doesn't matter how you sit. You can sit with your legs long. I have 2 blocks, a blanket and a strap, and I'm going to take one block and put it in front, and I'm going to bear down. To bear down. And I just want you to notice what you feel turn on when you simply press down. And it doesn't have to be that your fingers press. You can press with the outer edges of your hands. We'll explore different ways. But all of a sudden you bear down and you lengthen the back of your neck. You sit a little bit taller. And it helps us to feel our connection to the surfaces below us. There's a lightness through the legs even. If you'll turn your palms up, the aromatherapy that you might have used to waft up, this adaptive blend that supports resilience, helps with anxiety, is very grounding. If you'll bring your hands together and bring the thumbs and the pinky fingers together, draw them in, lengthen the sides of the neck, bear into the legs, sit nice and tall. If we use our senses to come present, then we feel very quickly this very effective means of arriving to the present moment. Bring your hands together and rotate the fingertips inward. Give your practice an intention. Rotate the fingertips forward. And invite that from your inner world to your outer world, this intention. Turn your palms up and rest your hands at the block and bear down. So I'm bearing down, shoulder blades pinned to the back of the rib cage. And we're going to continue with the different ways that we use our block for familiar poses. Okay. To continue our warm-up, we're going to take our feet wide. And I'm starting with just being at the outer edges of the mat. I'm sitting at this blanket. It's folded so that I have a little bit of neutral spine. And I want to take my tall block to the outer edge of one foot. And though what you might find is that you're inclined to go across, I am talking us into aiming to the outer edge of the foot. So if you need it to be closer, by all means, put it closer. If you can stand to slide it forward, please find your challenge and bear down. The back hand props you up, the sitting bones are even, your toes draw back, and we have this great stretch through the outer rib cage. We are strengthening the capacity of the spine to twist. Here comes the sneaky part. If you can take the back of your hand to the outside of the block and press back, so the block comes against your leg, against your foot, and you get to press back. It's not meant to be some huge push. It is meant to be just enough to cinch up these stretching muscles so that your breath from the inside and the work from the outside builds a little bit of strength there. Keep reaching into the other leg. Breathe. We're going to make our way over to the other side, but along the way, we'll take the block to center, and instead, we'll come back to being here, and we're pressing down. So what I want you to notice here is that you have a neutral spine. You can sense a neutral lumbar curve. We're going to come and go with this. You can turn your hands any which way, but I want us to invite a little bit of cat pose. Exhale strongly. And then inhale and come on back. We're not going to cow, we're coming to neutral, bear down. Keep drawing the toes back towards you. We'll do that one more time. I want to push down into the block somehow. Exhale, come into flexion of the spine. Have a little bit of cat pose. And so if we're going to be in flexion, it needs to be a strengthening action. Inhale and stack the spine. Come one last time into this neutral spine where you get to lift a little bit of the weight off the lumbar spine. Now, we're going to the outer foot. And in doing so, we are here. And we have a fold and a twist. You might, along the way, decide to move the block. And at first, we're bearing down. The interesting adapting to this pose, this adaptive, is that I could slide my hand along the top of the block and not have to move it necessarily and keep giving myself a challenge. Sitting bones are even best you can. We're looking ahead. So with the aromatherapy that we use today, called adaptive, I wanted us to really think about this word equanimity. Take the hand to the outside of the block, the back of the hand presses into the block and guides the block against the leg. You may find that the pressing makes a difference. It doesn't let the block tip, and you get to add a little bit more energy to it. So we are here in the midst of National Women's History Month. Tomorrow is International Women's Day. So we stand at this on the cusp of this celebration of how women are inspiring and strong and grounded, and how many women do we know whose shoulders we stand on that give us the chance to keep building. All we want for women, turn the block low and come and sit. So as you sit with a little bit of height, in this position, you'll be able to decide whether you are with feet wider or not, but we're going to take one arm against and press out. So before we were pulling in, this time we're pressing out. This is familiar. We're going to play with it. I want us to press out and to take the other arm around and up. So again, this great strengthening of core and rib cage. And then exhale, come around and down. Let's alternate. Inhale and lift. And so if you all would like to contribute to the conversation in any way, those of you in the class, exhale around and down. And then the folks who are on the screen, we're going to give them a chance to at the end of the hour. And there's always the chat feature. But so many women come to mind as those who came before us and show us what can be. Exhale around and down. And with that word equanimity, we have people like Rosa Parks, who amidst everything that she lived with, could just be herself and just trust. Exhale, come around and down. Trust your gut. Travel through and then to the outside. And this time I'm taking my arm to the outer leg. So whether or not you get to the floor is not important. But what I want you to notice is if you put your arm through, you're able to hug the leg. So it doesn't matter how low you go, take the other arm to shoulder height and keep turning. Turn and look behind you. So what we get out of this is different ways that we are strengthening the shoulder girdle. What are we asking the arm to do? Exhale, come around and through. And then slide through and hook the leg. And here we go. And we're turning. So my fingers are to the outside and I could come and use the floor. Nice options. Excellent. We're going to continue. One leg is going to stay way out here to the side. The other one is traveling to the side. And what we want out of this is a rotation. Now I have to lift the rib cage and turn, and I get to hold on to that knee and have any amount of a strengthening twist. What I'd like you to consider is either the other block that you're going to put your hand on it and help yourself into feeling the corset muscles cinch up. sliding that block any amount depending on how much your shoulders want to travel into it. Some of you are longer waisted and you don't need the block and you can just use the floor, but keep pulling the toes back towards you. And then release. Before we get to the other side, I want us to bring the legs toward each other. And we're sitting a little higher than we typically do for this next pose, but let's just check out where we are. We'll come back and we'll repeat. Come and fold and reach forward. It's not about how far you can go. But I want you to use this to be able to tell what you're going to do. So the arm that's to the outside, not beside the knee, just check out and notice it goes behind the back. The other hand, when we come back to this, is going to catch the strap. And so just turn it palm down and palm away. And while we're here with this fold, simply turn away from the bent knee. Just use that leverage. What I want you to notice for yourself is the front arm is the elbow past your knee. And if that's the case, practice bending it as if you're trying to get your hands hooked together. I know that's not for everyone, and we're going to back off and we'll use our strap to give us access to that leverage. Okay? Those of you who may have this permission from your body to really fold, like to really rest your chest on your leg, then you wouldn't turn. So for those folks, they stay there and they lengthen and they keep coming into it. And I'm not there yet, but everyone is blessed in certain ways. So I wanted to meet that for anyone who could. Here we are, other knee, the leg to the side. Quite often, folks who, even when they're not new to yoga, they will continue to find things that surprise them as they learn about themselves. So I'm turning away from the long leg, holding on, sitting tall, and then taking the outside arm behind. The block is an option, fingertips at the floor is an option, but the back hand needs a job. Pay attention to what happens in the long leg. If there's a habit or a weakness or a tightness where you turn out or in, try to keep the toes drawn back. That's safer for this hip. And today we're going to talk about a safety cue in triangle pose when we get there. We're going to come to something that we know, and we're going to make sure that we know it well. Take the time and inhale and come on back. And then the same idea, I'm bringing my legs toward each other. So they're hip width apart. There's room for me right here to come on through and reach forward. We are typically sitting lower on our blanket. This might seem awkward, but it gives us more access. The outside arm goes behind, slide it behind as far as it will go, press into your body. And then turn the palm down in front, turn it away from you, and use that to help yourself turn. Don't do anything more than just this. Notice how the shoulder gets some strength work. It's not a glitchy place by any means. Keep reaching into the long leg. But feel where you are. Is the front arm, is that elbow past the knee? And if that is the case, can it go? Can it begin to get there? Is it different from this side? And as we rearrange, we are going to refine what we're asking for. So as you come back, just sort of notice, are you in such a place that you can fold even deeper? Because part of the progression is going to take us there over time with practice. Inhale and come on back. Now, we're going to repeat this last pose, this version of Marshasana. We'll use our strap. And what I want you to decide for yourself is, did you like sitting up here higher? Or do you know yourself already? Or did you prefer sitting lower? I'm going to go back and sit lower. I'm going to take my blocks beside me. I don't need them. And I'm going to switch legs. So we're here. The strap goes behind you, and I like to say like a horseshoe. Here it is. So it's there if you need it. It's set behind you, just set down. And we're gonna create a better folding environment. So at first, I want to think, this bent knee, the sitting bone that belongs to it, I want to send it just slightly back. I want to hike it back. So it's a little catty-cornered. I want to take this foot and pull it in. And then I want to take it slightly out to the side. And what did I do? I created a space right here for me. So now I'm going to fold. Nice. Now I'd like to think everybody has a deeper fold. Does everybody have a deeper fold? So the back hand, the outside hand that was reaching for the back, it can reach behind you. And if you want to catch the strap already as far as you can around, please do it. And the front arm turns palm down and away, and we bend the elbow and we start to get there. And what you might find is if I catch the strap and tug, wow, I get to lift and open up and have this strengthening of the back of the shoulders. I'm trying not to hang the head. I'm really trying to open up. And I would like to encourage you as much as possible to think, instead of going as far as I absolutely can I back off? Can I put another inch between my hands and really come up here? What is that like? And then just to know where you are, how we get to know ourselves in a pose. As you exhale and fold down into it again, walk your hands a little closer and just notice, wow, am I there? Am I anywhere close to hooking 3 fingers, lengthening the front spine still? Any of that? That's where we're going. Before we give this away, as we come up, we're going to do the counter twist. We did it a little differently as we eased in. So I want you to hold on to this knee and sit tall. This foot is in the right place now. You made space for yourself right here. We can turn, and what I think you'll find is that, wow, we can really hug the knee now. Everybody should find that. And we have a great stretch for the back of the rib cage. The back hand can use the floor, it can use the block. You're closer to the floor if you sat on the blanket, but catch yourself with this. It's a tendency in this day and age, because we live with technology, because we're interested in what's in front of us, because we use our hands to lean in. And I'm asking you to come into your back body and continue to rotate. Right? There's so many things that we can do with the front arm. All of a sudden, there is this deeper twist afforded to us. So before we leave this beautiful Marashyasana variation, I want you to check out and notice if what you can do is take the arm to the outer knee. And if you did nothing more than just kind of rest it there and resist, all good. If your elbow is getting past the knee, then consider really hooking it and letting the fingers reach straight up. The fingers have to participate. They're not just hanging out. Then you would lose a little bit of action within the alignment. And breathe. Anchor the foot that is with the floor. It is your standing foot. So stand on your standing foot. You're opening up the back of the rib cage. Turn your head and look behind you any amount. How do we cultivate equanimity in our practice? What does that really mean? It means that no matter what's going on around you, you're gonna fully be present to your practice on your mat, right? If your teacher is moving faster into the next pose and you're not ready, you need to own it. You need to stay where you are. If you tend to notice what other people are doing, it's not about that. It's about you on your mat. Here we go, either side. And what are we doing? We're taking that sitting bone just slightly back. And then drawing the foot close and then moving it maybe an inch to the side. And if we think about the strong women we admire, that is what we find in them, this practice, this willingness to be who they are, to stand for what they do. That back hand goes to its position. You can catch the strap. The front arm turns, palm away. We could just stay here. If you're reaching back around, then here comes catching the strap. And as you hold the strap, then lift and open any amount. Yes, that is right, Dot. And if you're not getting past the knee, the strap, it can come to the front. You can put your hand down, you can catch it, and then you can still have the leverage. It still works. You can still keep working. Yes, each side is different. And shoulders are important, right? No strain. So with that in mind, on the other side, I said, let's back off. Let's everybody put an extra inch between their hands and come a little higher and open up. And you can feel the strength of your back. You're adding to it. Take a deep breath. Every time you cinch up muscles, then when you ask them to stretch, they're more willing. And that is why I suggested, as we come to our next step, that we fold again and then maybe walk our hands a little bit closer, just to understand these muscles are letting up a little bit. They're showing us a willingness for mobility. If we hold on and tug a little bit, we are strengthening that little bit further. It's called PNF stretching. And I like to share this word every once in a while. Here, inhale and come on up, because it has a lot of syllables and it sounds fancy. So keep your feet where they are, lift and turn, and find how you get to really come into this rotation. The long leg is on. Hug the knee a little bit deeper if you can. Stay in your back body. Turn your head any amount. So PNF stands for proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. A lot of syllables. To mean that we ask muscle fibers to slide over each other, they cinch up, and then they release. And the next stretch that we take means that they're willing to slide away from each other, and we get a deeper stretch. Take that front elbow to the outer knee, whether you do it with a straight arm, whether you're able to hook the elbow, fingers reaching up, it doesn't matter. And if this is not for you, then please stick to that hugging the knee and give time to how your breath affects the mobility of the back of the rib cage, not just lung capacity. So we want to take advantage of what these first poses in our practice that pretty much equate it to our warm-up. What did they do for us? And I'm going to go this way on my mat, but I'd like for you to use the length of your mat. And what I'm going to suggest is that you take your blanket over your block. And so you would want to come and use the length of your mat and rest. And I'm going to show you from this angle that the blanket over the block keeps the block from being the corners being hard. And I want to put it underneath the waistline to the rib cage. My legs are kind of in a comfortable way. And I'm going to come down and rest my head in my arm. So everybody's posing. The top hand is going to slide to your hip point, and the elbow can drop back just a little bit. And at first, we're going to do small range of movement. We're going to roll slightly forward as if we're tipping toward the floor, look down, and then we're going to come back to neutral and even rock slightly back and turn the head and look up. The head stays supported. Let's do that again. There is wonderful value in this. The position that is supporting your rib cage means that your breath is affecting the other lobe of the lung. It's stretching out the other side of the rib cage just by breathing, if we did nothing more. But when you rock forward and back, it's so wonderful to enhance the way lymph is moving through our body, through that area, so that it's very healing. It helps with the cleansing of what lymph moving through our body does for us. And if you want to move further, then I'm going to suggest that you take the top hand and you put it in front of you. And as you roll forward, you allow yourself to experience control with rolling a little bit further. This is really good for breast health if you come to the outer edge of the breast tissue. And then as you roll back, you can put your hand at your hip so the shoulder drops back. And you might warm up to going a little bit further. It means that your back and core muscles have to work more for you. And let's just do that 2 more times. I'm choosing to put my hand down and I'm rolling a little bit further. And yes, this is good for breast health. In this last repetition, I'm going to ask us to change what our legs are doing just a little bit. So I want you to notice if the bottom leg could come a little bit closer with that bent knee. If the top leg could go a little bit further so that the knee of the top foot sits in the arch of the bottom foot. It's going to open up this hip. So here we go. Rock forward. And then rock back, turn and look up and just notice the opening across the front. Your back has to hold you with a little bit more oomph. All right. Take the top arm, reach toward the ceiling, and then just reach overhead, turn the palm up and look up. We're just expanding that side of the rib cage. Nice. And release. Let's do all of that on the other side. So it's a nice surprise that this support feels so good. Here I am, resting. And at first, take your ease. Let your knees bend comfortably. Come into this place. Rest your head. Prop up. Allow your hand at your hip point to allow the elbow to just drop back. And explore that range. Your neck should not be straining. Move with breath. As you warm up to it, decide if that top arm is going to change its position. Come, put your hand down. Give yourself a little bit more range. Notice the pressure through the outer rib cage toward the breast tissue. Just notice. The hand that is holding you, notice if you press into your fingertips, how that creates a little bit of traction or a massage for your neck, all these little ways. If what you did on the other side was to splay the legs to open up the hip, then please do that here. The front knee comes forward, the top leg goes back. And then we have a wider base. Take the time and come on up. And we want to, again, take advantage of where we've just been. So to minimize the transition, we're just going to stay on this side and notice how I am sitting so that I have my front foot and the other knee against each other. Up to you how close you want to bring that back foot into a hero position. The blanket and the block are in the perfect place, I'd like to think. And I'm going to turn and I'm going to place my forearms right here. Exactly. So the blanket just makes it a little kinder on your forearms. And I want you to notice that we are not on our sitting bones, both sitting bones rotated with us. My forearms press down and forward. Let the foot and the knee resist each other. Bear the legs into the floor, lift the belly, stay, long neck. What I want you to notice here is that we can add to the effect of the twist in a direct way and then in a very sneaky way. First of all, if you're turning to the right, lift your left arm and just reach. If you're turning to the left, lift your right arm and just reach. You're expanding that side. And then as you put that arm down, I want you to give yourself an opportunity to move the block a little bit further around and come put your arms down and bear in. Notice how the arms pressing down automatically lift the belly. Bear the legs into the floor, press the foot into the knee, lift the pelvic floor and the lower abdominals. A wonderful, wonderful strengthening twist. Okay. All of that on the other side. You can simply swivel around. You don't have to change anything other than just you. The block could stay. And here come the legs. And we are turning and resting the forearms. And right away, it feels like this is the recovery for what we just had been, where we just had been. So I'll go this way now. You can pull the back foot in any amount as you rotate and bear down. Notice which side you turned toward. Remember, if you turn to the left, lift the right arm. Just lift and reach straight ahead of you. If you turn to the right, lift the left arm. Just keep reaching. It's adding to the direction of rotation. The bottom arm is doing its job. Strong abdominals serve you here. And then release. So taking advantage of that PNF stretching, we have a chance now to go that little bit further. I'm moving my block just that little bit further. And here we go. Both arms down, they press down and forward. The legs resist the floor. And we are aware, strong abdominals. Smooth, steady breathing. We might get excited as how this is a pretty great range. We've had some deep twists that have been accessible, but to bear with this idea of equanimity, just giving it time, being steady. So now, as you make your way, we'll make adjustments and we'll work our way to standing. I'm going to take my blocks to the front. And I'm going to keep mine low. You may decide to do this without the blocks, but I want you to put your hands on them so that whatever you need as far as weight bearing becomes yours. And as you come to your toes, you have this rotation of the pelvis, and then begin to rotate in the other direction. Just explore, taking advantage of what you just did. Take the time and rotate again, turning the knees to one side. Bear back. This is a squat, a deep squat. Inhale, come on through, rotate to the other side. Here we go, a deep squat. And as you come on back to center this time, if you will, notice this very low downward facing dog. Press your way back. Rise high onto the toes. We're not being formal about this. Step forward. And turning the blocks to a medium height. Keep one leg in front. Take the other leg back. So we're going to make our way to standing. We're going to connect a few standing poses that we know. At first, I want you to turn the back foot out. Take a look and notice that you are not walking the tightrope. Bear into your legs, change nothing of the upper body other than removing the hands from the blocks and taking them wide. And then come on up, give your back a chance to do the work. Drop the elbows. Okay. we'll make it a point to have a little bit of the opposite, right? We did a lot of weight bearing through the front of the shoulders. We want to open up the front of the shoulders now. So we're here. Feels good to be here. You can tell your shoulders welcome this. Send the arms wide. The idea now is to keep our arms 180 degrees from each other. We're going to turn. You're turning in the direction of the front leg. So my left leg is the front leg. I'm turning to the left and then inhaling to come back. And what begins to happen is that we get excited about this twist and that arm comes around, but we lose a little bit of this position. So it's actually very humbling. I don't get to go very far if I want to keep that. And if you feel confident in lifting the back heel and giving yourself the balance work, then your spine has more mobility and you can turn further, but you have a lot more to contend with balance-wise. So we'll just do that one more time. Put your heel down if that is what you need. Notice the opening of the hip. Come back to center, drop the elbows, and we're folding again. So now, I want to fold, and we're going to make it a point today to straighten the front leg and to put two blocks together for the outer leg in triangle pose. And I want to first teach from this angle for the folks on the screen, the point that I want to make. And then I'm going to turn and face the screen. When I am in triangle pose, what typically we want to align is to say, all right, we are walking the tightrope. My front heel is with the instep of my back foot, and the back foot is turned in. And the cue you hear from me is to come into your back body, to not lean in, and then to coil the hip under and turn the rib cage toward the ceiling. So we do that beautifully. We know what to do. When I read about this common thread between yogis and dancers having tendencies for sciatic issues, I'm trying to pay attention to what is the culprit of that tendency. And one culprit is what we ask the pelvis to do in twisting poses. And so I gave you cues that kept us fairly safe in where we were. But I want you to think, when you turn and look up, if your fingertips are your hip points, are you trying to pull that top hip back? And I want us to back off. I want you to think, can I come to a very comfortable place? Because for sure, the pelvis is tipped slightly forward. Does everybody notice that in themselves? And now we're not taking the pelvis with us. We're turning the rib cage. That's what gets to turn, and that doesn't put us anywhere near that issue. Okay? So we want to experience the challenge where it belongs. Coiling the hip under, turning the rib cage, not taking the pelvis with us. Back off, turn and look down, slide the back leg to the front leg. We're going to be very simple in how we come out of it. And now we'll do the other side comfortably as well. We'll start with warrior one. I want us to go ahead and put the block to the outside. I'm going to turn this way. That means the block will be already on the outside. And then here we are with this warrior one where we were front knee bent and the back leg straight. So I'll adjust there. And when you're ready, we're turning in the other direction. Feels good to balance it out. Come back to center. Notice any tendencies, like taking your knee with you. Just little things. Right? And then if what you did on the other side was to lift the back heel, I know that's not for every day. Sometimes we need to stay a little bit more grounded. You might go a little bit further. Notice which side allows you that. How you play with that comfortable edge. How you know yourself to stay in charge of you, right? Not get carried away with what can be. All right, relax. And so as you are ready, we are going to, and I'll go this way, We're going to come and fold and then turn the back foot out and really in a sneaky way come into our triangle pose. So we didn't do it with a very formal transition by any means. I want to walk the tightrope. I want to stay long through the side body. Okay. And as I keep walking the back foot further away to establish a wider base, that's a nice challenge in itself, then there might be more stability just in that. If you keep your top hand at your hip point, that'll be nice feedback today, that no matter what, you're not taking that hip with you. You're not getting stuck through the sacral lumbar joint, okay? So the sacroiliac joint. So we're going to coil the hip under, really engage the legs, firm the legs, draw the kneecaps up, and then focus on, oh, but the pelvis is still and the upper body gets to make that adjustment. I want to come into my back body, but the pelvis stays and everything else works around that stable place. Keeping the shoulders out of the ears. Keeping the legs firm to the floor. Stay one more breath. And this time, as you bend in the front knee, take the time, come upright, send the arms wide, enjoy this warrior two, and walk your feet together, walk them in. Excellent. We'll use our strap now. And I want to introduce that we could create a long loop or not. Where I'm going in our warrior one now is to hook the back heel and to have just the right length of the loop that we get to step forward and reach back and have this great traction effect. So my strap is here. And I challenged myself to have a loop that was just enough to make me have to work a little bit. It's not about how wide your feet can be from each other. You can play with that by all means. But when we talk about moving the back bend into the upper rib cage, this hip opening that is unfolding to us, this is a sneaky way to use warrior one. We have the leverage to tug and then to adjust the upper rib cage. We have more control. Does everybody notice how this hip opening is more pronounced? Let your head follow your spine and rib cage. It is in neutral position this way. And just breathe. With the loop, you have a minimal tug. If it's too cumbersome to find just the right length, just hold the edges of the strap, but don't grip so hard. Yep. And then release. As we bring the strap forward, we're going to turn the feet out. So in between, we're going to put our hands in this loop. The feet really turn out. You can turn sideways on your mat so that your mat is, the stickiness of it is going to be useful. I have sticky socks and I have a floor that just has a little bit of grip. But we're going to bend in the knees and swing the arms to one side. So I don't have to grip. I'm just taking advantage of this loop. I can swing the arms to the other side. Yes. In this goddess pose. As we are in this week celebrating International Women's Day, goddess pose. One hand bears down, the other presses up. We'll do that one more time. This is a lot of work for the legs. Yes, it is. So your challenge is, can I come that little bit further? Can I keep sending the sitting bones out? Nice. And then release. So we'll go one more time, and this time we're going to take the arms to one side. So I just want you to feel taking the hands to one side, decide what the hands are going to do without big gripping, and then come back and sit. Nice. Inhale, swing the arms up and over to the other side, this tugging on the bow. Yep. Everything else is still, just the arms get to move. Stand your ground. The spine is still for the most part. Lift the toes, spread them wide. Exactly. And then slowly lower. And we will do our same work on the other side. The loop is ready. If you're using that loop, I'm going to hook the other foot, the heel, step forward, bend the front knee, catch hold the strap, and wow, this great warrior one opening. So again, I'm here. Good. You can do that. It works. So as your body begins to quiet, then find, well, maybe I can wiggle my front foot further. Keep lifting the sternum, keep drawing the back heel to its anchor ring. And breathe. We want to keep using this idea. And this time we're going to hook both feet. So as you step the feet together, can both feet come into the loop? And as you stand, you might need to let the loop out. And if that becomes too tedious, you could, in fact, just hold the edges. But we have traction if we get it just to the right place. So my strap is behind me, and both arms get to hold on. And if you decide, that's a great way to do that. Yes. So that your arms get to tug and you lengthen the tailbone down without tucking the pelvis, and you find the lift through the front. But it's really about lifting the sternum, lengthening the tailbone down. Everybody should feel like they have a long neck. Traction for the neck. While you're here, if you will, turn your head to one side and look down. Try to minimize the gripping in your hands. We understand what's happening here, and it's easy to move through it too quickly. Lift your head and look over the shoulder and behind any amount. It might seem like you're not going very far, and yes, it feels bigger than it is, but giving it time. Turn your head back toward the center and let the ear fall toward that shoulder. Yes. Try to make that happen through the neck and shoulder area. It would be very easy to side bend, but we're affecting the neck. As you lift your head back to center and turn in the other direction, we're looking down the other side of the body. So today we did a lot of pushing and pulling. It would be only great to have traction through the neck and shoulders. Lift your head and look over the shoulder and behind. Over the shoulder and behind. And then as you come back, dropping the ear to the shoulder. I think I'm going far, but I'm not getting very far. But it's very effective. So now, as you do away with that, as you step out, does everybody feel just longer in their body, right? Longer in our body. So we're having our recovery. I'd like to make a suggestion. All right, so I want you to notice your blanket. And if I open up my blanket just like this, what I want to do is fold it one more time. So it ends up being this way. And truly, typically we have the blanket this way and then we fold it again and we sit, but this time we're not doing that. We're folding it the other way so there's a little bit more width to it while it still has that depth. This solid side is where your lower back is going to be supported. And this is constructive rest. I want to make a suggestion before we actually get there. So if you'll watch, please. I want to put, I'll go this way. I want to put my hips, pelvis on the floor. Lower back is supported. What this means is that the blanket is helping to ensure neutral spine with a little bit of an incline. I know that's not for everybody. So if what you know of yourself is that you're going to need a lift under your head, now would be the time to get a second blanket and put it under your head and give yourself that opportunity. What happens with the blocks here is that we put them underneath the feet and they go like this so that the knees can rest against each other and the lower back turns off. And then I'm going to guide from there. What we can stand to practice in constructive rest as we set up our base, as we let our muscles quiet, is to reach the arms up, cross the arms, give ourselves a hug. And in doing so, space between the shoulder blades. And then switch, which is the arm above. You can open up and come back in. You can make it very subtle, up to you. You may find that your body gives you permission to reach back and catch your shoulder blades. They're all different. And then follow your intuition. Decide where you want to really rest your arms. Take the arms to whatever position you are inclined to follow, and then breathe. As you're ready to come back into the room, begin to wiggle your legs. Drape them over the blocks. Bear down and open up. And then rotate to one side. And pressing up to sit. Bringing your hands together. Thank you for your presence. Namaste.